Hey guys, this is the Indian retail unit of the new and very popular Vivo X200 Pro. This phone is obviously designed to be the best camera phone, but in this video we'll test its gaming performance to see whether this phone can also double up as a powerful gaming phone or not. So without any further ado, let's get started. This is my first phone with the new Dimensity 9400 inside. This is a very powerful chip, with its theoretical performance being more or less on par with Snapdragon 8 Elite found in the iQOO 13. Coming to benchmarks, in Geekbench tests, this phone is more or less on par with the iQOO 13 except for the multi-core CPU score where the Snapdragon chip has a substantial advantage. Next, with AnTuTu tests, again both are close, but Snapdragon has an edge. The AI scores here cannot be compared as the Dimensity chip uses the open source TensorFlow Lite framework, whereas the Snapdragon chip uses its proprietary Snapdragon Neural Processing Engine. In terms of GPU performance, both chips are pretty much on par with each other. In terms of CPU and GPU stress test, the X200 Pro provides a respectable score of around 75% stability. This is especially impressive given the fact that this phone is not designed for gaming. Let's start the gaming test with BGMI, better known as PUBG. This game already supports 120 FPS with smooth graphics. I have also enabled super resolution for sharper visuals. However, I have not turned on game frame interpolation as you are already getting 120 FPS. We are playing team deathmatches as these are more intense and can cause more frame rate fluctuations, but even then this game feels extremely smooth. The frame rate is pretty much locked at 120 FPS. Fast forwarding 15 minutes. Okay, still the game feels extremely smooth and the phone is barely warm. Looking at the numbers, in the 3 matches we played, the average frame rate is nearly 120 FPS, which is amazing. Next is Call of Duty. Even here, the game natively supports 120 FPS with medium graphics, so we have just enabled super resolution for sharper visuals, but the game frame interpolation has been kept off. Starting with the gameplay, it plays perfectly as the game feels very smooth and responsive. Fast forwarding 15 minutes. Again, no issues after playing it for a while. It's still buttery smooth and barely warm to the touch. Looking at the frame rate graph of all the 4 rounds, the frame rate is again rock solid at around 120 FPS. So even this game plays perfectly on the Vivo X200 Pro. Next is Asphalt Legends Unite. As you can see, I have maxed out the graphics and also turned on super resolution. Fortunately, this game is now optimized both for the Dimensity 9400 as well as the Snapdragon 8 Elite. So you get to see all the fancy visual effects in action like God rays, raindrop effects, motion blur, and very impressive anti-aliasing. Here you also get game frame interpolation, but it is limited to 90 FPS. This means that you get 45 actual frames per second and 45 virtual frames per second, totaling to 90 FPS. In my opinion, for a good game frame interpolation experience, you need to have at least 60 actual frames per second, otherwise the game can feel a bit sluggish. So I've not turned on that feature. Fast forwarding 15 minutes. Even though this game is visually stunning and quite demanding, this phone is handling it like a champ. No issues whatsoever. The phone also didn't get much warm. Looking at the frame rate numbers, it's extremely stable at around 60 FPS, so even this game runs flawlessly on this phone. Next is CarX, which is a console quality open world racing game. As you can see, all the graphics are maxed out. Starting with the game, this thing obviously looks stunning, and so far it is running well on this phone. Fast forwarding 15 minutes. Even now, the game is running well, but I noticed that the frame rate dropped to around 45 FPS in a few busy sections. Also, now this phone feels quite warm, though not uncomfortably hot. In comparison, the iQOO 13 was at 60 FPS throughout my gameplay session and also felt cooler to the touch after a similar gaming session. That massive cooling system inside the iQOO 13 is definitely making a difference. Still, the game performed very well on this phone, with an average frame rate close to 60 FPS. Next is Genshin Impact, a stunningly beautiful open-world action-adventure game. Even here, all the graphics are maxed out and super resolution is turned on. But game frame interpolation is turned off as it is limited to 90 FPS like the Asphalt game. This game obviously feels very smooth and responsive while also looking stunning. The frame rate is very stable at around 60 FPS. Now let's fast forward 15 minutes. Okay, still the game feels extremely stable and responsive. The frame rate is still around 60 FPS, and while the phone is slightly warm, it is nowhere near being uncomfortable. Even if you see the frame rate record, it's a solid 60 FPS. So even this game works flawlessly on the X200 Pro. The final game of this test is Zenless Zone 0. The graphics are maxed out and now we test the gameplay. Okay, so I'm noticing some minor stutters and frame drops. It's not that this game is too demanding for this phone, it's more or less on par with Genshin Impact in terms of graphics, so the stuttering might be due to some lack of optimization. Now let's fast forward 15 minutes. The frame rate is fairly stable at around 60 FPS, but I have noticed multiple frame drops and stuttering. I guess with some optimization this will be resolved in the future. Looking at the graph, the average frame rate is close to 60 FPS, but we can see a lot of frame drops in the middle. Hope this is rectified soon. Overall, this phone is extremely powerful and can play pretty much any game you throw at it. The only issue is that because of its massive camera bump, this phone is not very comfortable to hold for a long gaming session. Also, it lacks some gaming specific features present in the iQOO 13. So if you are looking for an all-rounder phone with an emphasis on camera, this is a solid option. But if gaming is the only or most important priority, phones like the iQOO 13 are a better choice. Alright, that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. Please like, comment, share and subscribe to my channel down below. Thanks for watching.